Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Coleman. Hi. On behalf of the staff at the LA Gay and Lesbian Center, we welcome you to the Renberg Theater for today's performance of My Life is Poetry. Senior Services exists to give people who are over 50 a safe place to come to feel proud and be able to be out and to be able to create the kind of profound work that you're going to see today. So thank you for being here. And if you have any friends or loved ones, relatives, neighbors who are over 50 and you think they can benefit from our services, please send them to us Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We would love to work with them. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome. I'm happy to welcome you to the culmination of the My Life is Poetry workshop. And this workshop is sponsored by a grant from the Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs and also supported by the Gay and Lesbian Center Senior Services Program. The photographs that you've seen on screen and in your programs today were taken by the portrait photographer Jenny Walters. And for the past 7 years, Jenny has taken photographs of every student in every class, and she's generously donated her time. She's in the audience today. I would like to give her a round of applause. Thank you, Jenny. In the My Life is Poetry class, it's not just poems that were being written. Community was being built, friendships were being formed, and a written document was created of what it was like before the liberating Stonewall riots of 1969, the devastation of HIV in the early 80s and 90s, witnessing the emergence of queer representation in the media, getting older, and our shifting political landscape. A poetry family was created of GLBTQ seniors interested in poetry and sharing the experiences of their lives. It's painful to lose a member of the poetry family, and Bob Dahlmeyer was at the first ever My Life is Poetry class 7 years ago. And Bob was a great poet and a great person, and he was very quick with his smile and sharing his stories. He was also a bit of a partier. He would organize big groups at his house to have drinks and then walk over to see Bill Maher. He threw a party at his home for the My Life is Poetry students, and he kept encouraging everyone to attend the Magic Castle with him. In his years as a student, Bob would recount stories about his partner, pride in his grandchildren, one of them even being gay, and his sadness when his mother died just last year. And Bob's cancer diagnosis was shocking and saddening for all of us. We're sorry that he cannot be here today at this program to share the poetry that he's written, and so today's program is dedicated to Bob. We are a society built on storytelling, and using the poetic form to compress these stories into line breaks and stanzas is a rewarding challenge. Tackling an autobiographical poem is more manageable than trying to write one's entire life story in a memoir. I not only think that GLBT senior stories are important, I think they're the most important. Today, you'll hear stories written in this workshop that share the vulnerability and bold stories of a specific community living through an interesting and challenging time, emotionally, culturally, and politically. Our culture doesn't encourage creativity, self-expression, or radical self-disclosure. Today, you're going to meet some fearless poets doing all of those things. It's my honor to introduce to you the poets of the My Life is Poetry class of 2014. And the first poet you'll hear from today is Audrey.
My name is Audrey Lockwood, and my life is poetry. My life in a time machine. Picture a congenial woman who smokes cigars at sunset as she cries over the New World Symphony. She gets out the garden hose to spray water full force at the Mormon missionaries who dared come near her lesbian home. Prop 8, payback time. The woman who can't discipline a Great Dane, who gets annoyed at bad grammar and double negatives. The woman who believes in the virgin, but only for radical lesbian reasons. The woman who is erratic and hates the thought of routine, yet her car keys are always in the right place. She never misplaces her pens. She hates purses, but loves her 1920s pink necklace with silver flapper on it. It matches her lavender shirt, monogrammed and neatly pressed, naturally. The woman who falls asleep at a beachfront house, who can't sleep, except when she can. She hated the L-Word TV show 10 years ago, but now sees art in it. Time machine, dapper dyke. She still thinks it's 1995 and enjoys 80s music that she just discovered a few summers ago. The woman who loves the musical tastes of a 15-year-old girl, who laughs hysterically at Taylor Swift, delighted with just being in the present for once. The Chinese painting. It was a Chinese painting of a lovely phoenix peacock bird. I was taken with it instantly. Drew a circle on my dorm room door to the sound of the captain and Tennille, and sketched a copy of the bird in the large round border. I'd attached a pencil to a long thread with a thumbtack in the center, my drawing compass. Carefully, I took out my watercolors and copied the image from my Introduction to Oriental Art textbook. I'd never done something like this before, just as I had never really been in love before. I don't think I consciously thought about this at the time, but the project was inspired by love. Coincidentally, the girl down the hall of my freshman dorm was also taking the same art history class. We would walk together in the fall, past Trowbridge Hall, on our way to the pentacrest of ivy-covered walls, into a large lecture hall to listen to our professor speak about the art of Japan, China, and India. I really didn't know what being in love was back then. Art itself seemed to lead me. I was good at imitating and copying, which our professor said was the way students and masters worked together in the Orient, as it was called back then. Good at copying and imitating. I was about to stumble into genuine originality. Slowly, over a period of weeks, I finished the painting with its bright reds and plumed feathered blues, walking to class with this brilliant woman who majored in art history and journalism, the very woman who inspired me to paint the phoenix peacock bird in the first place. There were no words for what I felt back then, so I let the painting of the bird speak to my love instead.
My name is Bonnie Lee, and my life is poetry. Adapting. Difficult to make light of death, the absoluteness. Not even one lit wick of a candle sheds rationale. Sorting through mail, expectant, a word, a card, familiar handwriting. Instead, grief gasps. There is so much missing. For years, as if packing a suitcase in preparation, she asked, "How will I live without my mother to converse with every morning, ordinary as plugging in the hairdryer, warm embraces eventually slip?" no one escapes. Palm lines inscribed like cement in the book of life her mother died. Sorrow swells recesses where the belly aches, waiting to be filled. Reach across as if life is elastic. Push the weft of tomorrows yet unfathomed tight up against the warp of faded photographs. Slowly, a new tapestry appears. Who's to blame? Tiny me, driving your giant emerald green Toyota pickup, capacity enough for a horse. Sitting on two pillows, another one at my back, my head hair askew, barely crests the steering wheel, and we are late. 3 hours north of the Albuquerque airport, speeding through captivating blue sky and shapely clouds, there is no time to glimpse. Dreadfully late, and all I want is to blame you for every plague I've suffered. And all I want is to wrap myself round a spirited glass of champagne, sparkling dance steps, rejoicing my Florida father's 80th birthday bash that you were not invited to. But between us, there wasn't enough money for both tickets anyway, so really, why bother arguing with blood relatives about why they refuse to recognize queer life? So I plan to wear a nice black dress, but I'm going to bring it down a notch like a protest, pair it with unpressed jeans instead of stockings. In the meantime, I bulldoze through vast miles of sky, you in the passenger seat, putting finishing touches on the handmade gift for my father you stayed up all night working on. You, my broad-shouldered, indestructible, soft butch, capable fingers finely tuned toward detail, sober for 30 million years, and a good cook whom I adore, who insists I drive through stop signs, through sky, through gulping tears, through fears, scared I will miss my flight and hate you. Thank you.
Oh, this is big. I'm Cassandra Christensen, and my life is poetry. My first poem is The Melting and the Falling. The Great Depression, men lost, stand in long coats, hats in gray hands, poised, then willingly jump out of tall buildings. I am born in this time of the Great Depression, grow into young child as melting and falling, continue in my life. Hindenburg, I'm 3 years old. It's a grand ship of the sky, helium-filled, sleek silver and tight, bursting, it spewing with flame. Pathé News, live recording, announcers sobbing into the mic. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, they're jumping. I listen when I'm older as he continues. Can't breathe, smoke and wreckage. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. This is a catastrophe. I'm drawn to catastrophe, but not to my father. His whiskers tickle, searches pink panties, handmade by my mother, bunched up under peach wool, edged in green satin. The Hindenburg melts curved ribs of its bones. I drawn to the terrible, flashed to my grown daughter, getting ready for work, when stops for a call. Look at TV, Mom. Hurry, quick, turn it on. Ice in my throat, There is nothing to feel as things in the sky flail and drop, leading the way to the melting and falling of tall buildings. My father is a memory lost in the late clouds of my life. As the night settles in my sleep, all has been recorded, plays and replays as something inside searches for healing. Thank you. We're so happy you're here. Thank you. So this is called Left Before It Began. I leave without hope, cope by walking away from myself, the woman who gets married at the church. My camera stays there, photos taken, proof that I really do marry, standing in lace, luminous veil, holding on for fear of losing even more of myself. Preacher grasps at his watch. We've waited too long for the groom, must leave in a moment or two. In bar far away, it is time without tick, husband-to-be, nose to the glass. But limo grabs him from the bar to the church where words said, marriage is pledged till death do us part. After the wedding, it's carnival time, funhouse, arcade, groom lifting his bride, weaving, bridal veil falls, onto merry-go-round ride, going faster and faster. 5 years go by, no little wife now, but rage hot under Betty Crocker's smile. I return to this woman, the woman who is me. Together we bring down the big top, a circus charade, yank out the stakes, bundle up the past, throw it all on freight train, out of town, then turn to the tiger with a smile and grab him from the lion tamer, stomp on the whip, put out our hands to dance the delight of all one.
My name is Darrell Denning, and my life is poetry. I have 2 poems of childhood. First is called Bower Pottery. Bower Pottery, dazzling dishes, California-style Ming Dynasty, vibrant blues, oranges, greens, even black ones, clown colors in the eyes of a child. Dunlop's dime store, she'd admired it before, a gleaming pitcher, glazed as yellow as the floppy mop on her 5-year-old's towhead. Way too expensive. Guess it was then, a whole 50 cents. Being tugged to the car, Mom, by chance, can I borrow a $50? You stay here. Birthday candles, bright and blazing, her special day. A curved handle peeking out through wrinkled wrapping. She acted surprised, bless her heart. So happy to please her, beaming with delight. A warm thank you hug. Milk still pours from that spout onto my Cheerios, a constant reminder of how tenderly her hand tousled my hair and lovingly buttered my toast. Thank you. The Birds and the Bees. A tricycle graduate, my first little bike, riding with brother. There it was, flat on the boiling asphalt, a small balloon. Brother shouts out, "Don't touch that, it's a dirty thing." Too late for that. dried, stretched out, already cupped in my hot little hand. That's no balloon. What is it then? So I learned about condoms before the birds and the bees. A penis goes where? Mom and Dad do that? Yes, everyone does, even you someday. He had to be wrong. Couldn't imagine doing that with my pee-pee, which I knew very well was just for peeing. Thank you.
Hi, my name's David, and my life is poetry. My first piece is titled Downstairs at the Anvil Bar, New York City, 4 a.m. The basement's dark, packed with men, smells like coal. I'm 26, skinny from speed, and I'm smiling. A Puerto Rican guy with a mole on his lip just popped a load in my mouth, and a black queen, high on Dexamil and Defiance, thinks he's Shirley Bassey in a white Guinea t-shirt. The tall guy who watched me blow San Juan, he's fired up a joint. I'm loaded on Quaaludes and beer, but I take a hit. Two guys who I hope are brothers make their move on me. Billy Bob rubs the basket in his jeans back and forth across my ass. Jethro snaps a vial of Amyl under my nose. I snort the fumes quick and deep. My cerebellum goes pinwheel, and I'm hauling ass to the Airport 90 down the interstate to Knoxville, Klan country, where a local with a college education says to me, "My grandma says Jewish men all have pointy tails like the devil. Can I see yours?" And a man's voice, deep and official, slices through the dark New York basement. "Gentlemen, watch your wallets. There's a pickpocket in the crowd tonight." My next piece is titled, "Why Am I Standing Up Here?" When I was 6, I learned that boys who play with dolls must die. It's Christmas, and there's a monster in our living room with red eyes. He yells at Santa, "I told you last year, no more dolls for him." My grandmother and aunt shake their heads. What's wrong with dolls? My tongue goes numb, and I cannot speak, so I hide under the covers and write to you in silence. The secret comes visible through my hand, into my pen, onto the paper, in vowels and consonants, now out my mouth to you. My father kills baby dolls. At night, he sits on the toilet and chokes them till their heads fall off and roll under the sink. That's why I'm standing up here, 'cause my rage brought you Stonewall.
My name is Harry, and my life is poetry. My first poem is titled Dishes. Mama's dishes. After my mother passed away, my brothers and I each took some of them, the light brown ones with chickens painted on them, and the white and blue ones with dainty little flowers painted on them. I never used them. It's as though they are almost sacred, too full of her essence, too reminding of her being passed away, too reminding of her vibrancy. They just sit inside a kitchen cabinet, enshrined. I sometimes look at them touch them, and feel her presence. I imagine that I can hear her heart beat, keeping time with mine when I was inside her womb. Boom, 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 boom. She was full of me, and I was full of her, and still am. Boom, 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 boom. Her dishes sit precariously stacked, seemingly protected, safe, yet really vulnerable, like she was. If an earthquake should shake them loose onto the floor to break, like she sometimes broke when earthquakes inside her shook, like we all sometimes break. I ate her delicious, spicy Louisiana food off those dishes many, many times. But now I eat off my own sturdy, plain white dishes, no chickens or flowers on them, not like Mama's fragile dishes. They are not her. I guess they are me. I have broken one or two of them. Dishes break like one's heart. Boom, 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 boom. My second poem is titled, Learning to Drive. My father taught me to drive when I was in high school. He would take me out to parking lots and back streets and remind me that I must learn to drive like a professional chauffeur, flawlessly, smoothly, and apply the accelerator and the brakes so softly that the car just seemed to float along with no jerking when starting and stopping, like he used to drive when he was a chauffeur in Louisiana, before he married my mother and moved to California. He would say things like, Harry, you never change lanes in an intersection. But he had not told me that before. You want to kill us? Or you better stop going through intersections so fast. Or don't take your eyes off the road, ever. Think about why. He made me so nervous, but I wanted to please him. So I tried very hard to become a perfect driver, a professional chauffeur like him, who made his old car float along like a fabulous, elegant, black stretch limousine. Funny, speaking of a black limousine, I remember him saying, there's nothing more beautiful than a black car. And I guess that rubbed off on me because I find myself admiring black cars a lot on the streets. He admonished me to learn everything fast and emulate him behind the wheel, like a highly skilled professional chauffeur. And because I wanted to be like him in that regard, I tried very hard to please this man who occasionally would remind me that as a teenager, he left his home on the family farm with cardboard in his shoes to cover the holes. Could I ever live up to that? All I wanted to do was to make him happy. This proud man, who also liked to remind me that I was going to be the first person in our long family line to graduate from a university, which fortunately I did with his help. I wanted to please him so much, even though at times I thought I never, ever really could. And it's very thought-provoking and inspiring to me how my father, leaving home with cardboard in his shoes to find his way in life, led to my life and the lives of many. What a lesson in courage. Thank you.
I'm Joe Levy, and my life is poetry. This is called Not Me. Eat first, then we'll talk. That's how I grew up. No connection to Jewish faith. We celebrated all holidays, Jewish, Christian, pagan, whatever, as long as it involved food. Thanksgiving, Purim, Easter, Passover, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, Rosh Hashanah, Halloween, Yom Kippur. We were all overweight, parents, sister, aunts, grandparents, and nephews. And we ate. I cooked all day. Finish it. I'm not throwing that away. Eat for the starving children of in Armenia. I can't remember how many weight loss plans I began. Slim fast, cabbage soup diet, Air Force diet, drinking man's diet, Nutrisystem, Jenny Craig, low fat, low carb, failure after failure. I recently lost 20 pounds after surgery and regained 12. Thin is unfamiliar, uncomfortable, unaccustomed, not me. But I'll try it again tomorrow. Facts of life. In those days before World War II, nobody talked about sex. Pregnant was not an acceptable word. It was called being in the family way, or expecting, or just that-a-way. My sister was in college when she asked why her sorority sisters giggled when somebody mentioned a certain number. Uh-oh, I thought. I was just 3 years older. Having had furtive sex with men for over 10 years, I knew that number. I chose the truth. Oral genital sex. Then I had to draw verbal pictures. I was 21, a draft notice in my pocket. The night before I had to report for active duty, my father asked, "Do you know how to handle yourself with a woman?" To me, that meant opening doors. Sending corsages, holding chairs, dancing well, and being attentive. Of course, I replied. Simultaneously, my father and I both breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Lois Politi, and my life is poetry. My poem is called Wonder Woman, Superhero and Heroine. I read every day and drew pictures of my superhero, Wonder Woman, every day in my early years. She was my reading material from the comic books. I was able to understand the comic story by understanding the actions that Wonder Woman presented. The pictures that the author drew of her. She had strong muscles, body language of a tall woman dressed in shorts, bra, lariat near her belt, her invisible plane, and her tiara headpiece to use for super mental abilities. In addition, she had powers that I always wanted to have. I finally enjoyed reading her stories based on the action pictures and her abilities. She presented a powerful and capable woman of wisdom. For me and other young girls of the time, she only used these powers when she was fighting criminals. Wonder Woman of West Hollywood. I was the superheroine of Harper Avenue, fighting off the older kids and my brother. I would jump from one garage building to the next with stick or sword in hand, in order to protect myself if the mean kids came over to me and hit me. I was ready to fight. I had my own internal war to protect myself from the older kids because I was 4 years younger than the others. I did not have the street smarts or understanding to fight back. My brother was mean-spirited and physically hit me. I started learning dirty words as a way to defend myself from my hurt feelings. I could not tell my parents because my brother took care of me when they went to work. When I began to speak as I grew older, I avoided the older kids. As I got older, Wonder Woman was my sister, my role model, and support system. She was a woman for being wise, honest, and truthful. Always think and feel from your heart was my motto. Thank you very much.
My name's Margaret, and my life is poetry. An old friend. Harold Vandevort was Dad's high school friend. He was musical, intelligent, messy, drunk, and seemed destined for failure. Vandy came to live with us when all his other options disappeared. Vandy, tall and ungainly, dripped cigarette ashes all over my mom's tidy house. We all felt sorry for him, but he really needed his own place to drip ashes and be messy. Mom and I looked at places he could afford in Glendale and finally found one. The next news about Vandy came in a telephone call from his landlord. Vandy was dead. His liver had burst, throwing blood all over his single apartment. My mother's final kindness, cleaning up the gore. My second poem is entitled, It's Familiar. It's familiar, well, then again it's not. What is home? A World War II house in Montrose, an apartment in San Jose, a hotel room in Colón, Panama, a bunk bed in an orphanage in Honduras. My life has repeated patterns. My life breaks free from those repeated patterns. What is love? Actions and feelings, enticements and melting into my heart, being safe and taking a chance, forcing myself to be straight and allowing myself to be a lesbian. What is family? Blood relatives and chosen family, struggling with reality that blood doesn't always bind, accepting realities of addicted daughter and loving sons.
Hi, Superman Nelson here. It's been a pleasure to explore being a senior under Stephen's guidance and the poetry. And what's been most fascinating about it has been not what I've written, but what I've listened to from all of my classmates here. It's really been an incredible, enlightening experience, and one that makes me okay with being a senior just a little bit. The first one is Free at Last. Words are my pen, draw that I do. My mind draws everything, no barriers, no limits, in my lifelong mental quest to know. My mind will draw and draw or explode it all, like a galaxy of stars crushed to 1 square inch. Give me the extra time, reverse the clock, Go hands backward, I ask. I draw, and all those eyes above me seeing me descend slowly. Pity the end, joy the beginning, into the limitless cosmos of time. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. The second little ditty here is Too Many Green Lights. It is indeed a curious thing about human life. And what is that? The walrus said. It is, alas, that humankind never truly knows what it has, the good parts, until the darkened sky prevails and one loses it. No matter what it is, war, peace, health, illness, Tsar Romanov wealth, Caesar's end, power, divinity. Talk about Alexander the Great. He lost it all. We spring to life into mom and dad's arms. No matter the love of how it happened, true or not, we are there, full of life, energy to explore, but so little time, indeed, of youth. For soon, too soon, we are old. Yet in the bud of youth, our vision is endless, until the time comes, by accident or just age, we fall apart and lose it all. Muscles fail, mind dithers, judgment wanes, hearing stumbles. Well, you know, guaranteed to happen to all, unless you die too young to know. And is that better? Don't ask me. So I made it over the fence. But now it is all down, hitting solid ground. Why, I ask, laying there in thought, don't I know what I really had then, not now? Amen.
I'm Rana Meiji. My life is poetry. Slipping. Navigating the 405 freeway that night, my car steers untethered on this highway already known, as if taking leave of the pavement is the way an older woman drives, clutching the wheel, slowing to 50, maneuvering over to the right. Lost, I search for an exit from this dark, older world, attempt to leave the oncoming highway of night. Manchester, La Cienega, Slauson, which is my way out? When Aunt Lillian learned to drive at 60 after Uncle Glenn died, she clutched the wheel of her brown Chevrolet as if leaning forward and holding onto the wheel could provide more control of Detroit's streets in the dark. Young teenagers, we scoffed at Aunt Lillian then, at an aging woman trying to hold on to the momentum of days, not caring how she'd pilot life as it slipped through her grasp. My second poem is called Listen. The clapboard shutters on the back of the summer cottage listened as she told of her afternoon escapades with the boys. Age 11 or 12, she and I were then. I, prepubescent, and she already there. And those boys, not our same age, just a bit beyond. How she let Ray and George Menzies squeeze her boobs. She got excited when they did that to her, and other things down there I did not yet understand. On a gravel road in the back seat of an old car. And not to tell her mother, or she'd be considered bad. The first boyfriend I had was Willie. He was 7, I was 5. When he came to my house, we sat on front porch steps outside. I in a gown of diaphanous yellow, with holes at the top you could see through to the skin.
My name is Roy, and my life is poetry. The final piece of the puzzle. Slim and elegant, she turned to me quietly, there at the well-set table in Lithuania. We had not exchanged more than polite hellos. "I'm going to die soon," said she calmly, as if asking for the salt. I had no words but to touch her arm and as quietly as she say, "I'm sorry." What else to say when someone shares the final indignity with a stranger? Perhaps a burden shed for her, but one passed on to me. Intimacy hard to hear and hard to bear. Some secrets are lifelong, shared with no living person, some shared with strangers, some as secret as posting on a Facebook wall, some terrible, some trivial, some kept for 100 reasons, some for none. All men have secrets, and I too, but perhaps only one shall I never tell, to stranger or acquaintance or intimate or soulmate. Say what you will, all men are guilty of guilty secrets. Mine has nothing in it of shame, certainly not of crime, but never shall I tell it. I save that bit of myself for myself and no other, though I have imparted far greater revelation. We are all jigsaw puzzles, the final picture different for all who think it complete, who think they know us, but never shall they discover that little strip of territory that is ours. We are undiscovered lands even to those who adore us, as was she there on that strange night in Lithuania, she, elegant and dying, sharing with me, a stranger, perhaps the final piece of her mystery. If she now be gone from the earth, she was unknown to me, save for her final anguish, gift-wrapped in polite serenity. Perhaps others knew the enigma of her, or were comforted to think it so, but unfathomed secrets are interred with her. That is as certain as the stars, as it shall be for all of us in that awe-filled moment of dark culmination. Anthem. Well-meant words from well-meaning people. They did the best they could, did not know any better. That ignorance is not bliss to me. I've come a long way, baby, but no thanks accrue to them, who strove to keep me down, to quash my dream. So modest it was, but it was my touchstone. I, below the bottom of the self-love scale, where they had found me wanting, they who never dared dream a dream. How did they, strangers to each other and themselves, measure out their endless days? I have come a long way, baby, from non-personhood. This is my time. I shall not conjure up a haunted past. I have cast it off, and them too, they who thrust me down. They who did the best they could did not know any better. Stifle those words before you speak them again to me. They surely had private agonies, so much must I forgive? Do we forgive the undertow for pulling us down, or the thief in the night who robs us of all we value? They are gone, and I am here. I have come a long way, baby. At the last moment of clarity, I shall remember not my struggle, but my triumph. Perhaps if we live again upon this whirling blue earth, I shall have to do it all over. That is the tragedy of forgetting. But I shall rise again and I shall shine. That is my anthem.
Hi, my name is Steve Alden Nelson, and my life is poetry. The first piece is called Flying High. He wouldn't shove a condom stuffed with marijuana up his ass until we got to the airport, where he used the bathroom outside the security checkpoints to make it happen. Meanwhile, before leaving the house, I had carefully laid out 8 rolling papers and tucked them strategically between the pages of my brand new used copy of Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. I didn't read on the flight there or back. The book had already served its purpose. We didn't need to be concerned on the return trip because all the evidence had been burned, little by little, day by day, as the psychedelic sun fell slowly into the Pacific. Thanks. This is called Mondays. He arrives to an empty house every Monday and remains alone until long after sunset, when poetry class is over, and I crawl through the congested streets of Hollywood toward the hills of Silver Lake. Dinner will be partially prepared. We will have a cocktail on the deck. And after a game of cribbage, he will ask me to read to him from my Monday notebook. And he will sigh, smile, laugh, or weep. And once again, it will all have been worthwhile. The time apart, the traffic, the interruption of our daily routine. Because someday one of us will sit alone on that deck in the dark, wishing for just one more Monday.
Hi there. I'm Teresa Blackwell. First poem I'm going to read for you today is Going Home. Going back to New Orleans, Louisiana. Can't wait to get there. Meandering through the French quarters, smelling the gumbo and the fried oysters, cobblestone streets. God, I can't wait to get there. People, all colors, all shapes, Creole, Cajun, French, and of course, us honkies, laughing, crying, dancing. Jazz, the soul of the city, drifts from the basement of a century two-story. September 2, 1945, I'm 10 years old. World War II has ended. No more blackouts, meandering through the French quarters. Streetcars chattering down Canal Street toward the lazy Mississippi. Vintage magnolia trees, majestic oaks embracing draped Spanish moss. Sunsets of purple and gold and fire red. Bayous, lagoons, marshes, swamps, and voodoo. Smell the gumbo and the fried oysters. Can't wait to get there. Thank you. Next selection I call Grief. Webster's Dictionary's definition of grief: sorrow, sad, affliction, unfortunate outcome. Example of grief and grieving: a 5-year-old having to leave her first puppy behind. The family is moving again. A young child migrating city to city, school to school. Classrooms of blue eyes, newly hatched white supremacists in training, perfecting their acts of terrorism on the new kid in school. And let's not forget the parochial schools. It was the nun's job to let the children know they were born in sin, they were bad. They had to get real good or they'd be sorry. God liked certain people. The others were gonna burn. Spousal abuse, broken vocal cords, end of a stage career. Single parent raising children without emotional or financial help. Watching adored father crawling on the floor, wet with urine, because he's too drunk to walk to the bathroom. A fight, bang. A beautiful teenage boy with a gun shoots and kills the beautiful 18-year-old son of an adoring mother. Grief? No. Annihilation, devastation, heartbreak. I've been told I need to go through the grieving process. What in the hell does that mean? Grieving process. I've been rehearsing grief throughout my life. Thank you.
My name is Tom Howard, and my life is poetry. A ride to the airport. The trunk of my younger brother's beat-up and dented Mustang wouldn't close, so my bags and his 2 dogs got crammed into the back seat for this free ride to Boston's Logan Airport. The passenger side door wouldn't open, so I reluctantly climbed in on the driver's side to squeeze in over the gear shift to the torn shotgun seat covered with dog hair. Of course, the seatbelt didn't work either. But for appearances, I let it lay across my chest, while a big slathering dog tongue attacking from the back seat gave my face an affectionate but not needed washing. Dan's command, "Down, Toby," finally brought relief. No gas, no money, so I forked over a 20 at the nearest grubby gas station, so younger brother could fill her up and purchase a big gulp plastic cup of ice-cold Coke, which then spilled on the floor and my pants. Angry at my protestations and preparing to be silent for the rest of the ride, he blasted out of the gas station, speeding to make up for lost time because, of course, due to some phone calls he had to make, we were late. Listening, and this is for the audience. Listening, to draw someone out with your ears, is an act of love. Listening to my 90-year-old mother has been my greatest gift to her. And not just listening, but to record her voice, transcribe, compile chapters, and then to patiently review them with her, combing over each sacred word. You see, Mother has rather long stories. Other family members are worn out. My father is dead, one brother angry and holding fast, my sister too busy, impatient to listen for too long. Another brother moves in circles, too oblique for the simple act of listening. I admit listening to Mother has at times worn me thin. She might jump a decade, split a name, digress, alas, give her shortcomings a spin for the better. So, no, it is not always easy to listen. Mother has moods, flapping wings excitedly one day, mute and camouflage the next. But to have extracted her story has been a wonderful joy for us all. She leaves her legacy, and we all see her strength and beauty again and get to drink it in.
And another round of applause for our poets for today. There are a lot of people who helped make this event happen. Some of the people I would like to thank are Ian McKinnon for the video you saw, Dean Littner for videotaping today's event, Daniel Perez for taking photos, the volunteer and staff at the Senior Services Department here. A special thanks to our tech people today for their patience and their skill. And once again, I would like to thank all of our poets for their amazing, brave work today. Thank you.
Your class wants you to know how much they admire you, how appreciative they are, and how high they hold you in their esteem.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, Harry Hay goes way, way back, and I remember when I first heard about it in the 50s, and I went to a particular newsstand where somebody said I would find it.
Mattachine Society?
Okay. Right. Mattachine Society. Is that a copy of one?